afternoon. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. I am your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in this studio today with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. Hi, Dad. How
How
are
are
you?
you?
Good. Today we are going to go through our Parenting 101 series. If you're just joining us, uh, or been on a break the last couple weeks, we've been going over Parenting 101, things that we need to be teaching our children about living consciously. We're going over some morals, values, principles, life distinctions that are important to start teaching your kids. One, because nobody else is teaching them. Our educators and facilitators in school aren't really teaching these things. They're more focused on the education side, which is great. It just means that somebody else needs to be teaching these distinctions to them outside of school. Like I said, if you haven't really been tuning in lately, you can find all of the distinctions we've been going over the last couple weeks on our podcast at hometownstation.com. But if you have been joining us, go ahead and feel free to jump in. We are going to be talking about what's our first one, Dad? Determination?
No, we actually left off with death.
Okay.
So I think this distinction is important to teach our kids what it's like to experience loss when somebody dies and how to deal with loss and how to deal with the grief and teach them how to accept that somebody can pass on and how to continue to heal ourselves and how to transition into moving forward with our life without that person. And so I think it's a very touchy subject. I think a lot of us as parents or adults haven't really been taught this distinction. I think it's important for us to learn that ourselves, as well as embark on a journey with teaching our kids how to deal with it as well.
Yeah, we talked about this one a little bit before we left last week, and one of the things that I was bringing up and mentioning was that a lot of people that I know, friends, family, whatever, especially like my generation, the younger ones, we haven't really experienced death or loss so young. And for me, I experienced it at a younger age, so I feel like moving forward I'm a little bit more equipped versus experiencing it in my early 20s, late teens. It's a very emotional process, especially I mean, as everybody knows, when someone's close to you. But I also think that maybe laying out, and I said this last week, laying out some type of prep work ahead of time, so that when your kid, is 16 years old and experiences loss, it's not the first time they've ever heard of it. I mean, it'll definitely be the first time experiencing it, but it will have, I want to say, a way to prep them, even though you can't really prep yourself, for, experiencing grief and everything. But I'm sure there's some steps, right, that you could take as a parent.
Well, yeah, I think that's the purpose of having the discussion, is prepping ourselves to be able to have someone explain what it is, why is it, what does it look like, and how does it feel when someone does die. As a parent, you can give your experience if you've ever had a loss or has had a loved one, pass away in your life. You can help guide somebody with your experiences. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to have the same experience, but I think that looking back at my life, if I would have had my parents or some of my mentors when I was younger sit me down and explain it and have dialogue about it, and it was a normal discussion that we would have at dinners, and just live in the question, and out of curiosity, if I would ask questions, I feel like I would have prepped myself to be able to deal with the first loss or the first death in my life as a young man, to be able to fall back on some distinctions and fall back on some assurances, knowing that what I'm feeling is okay because I already talked about this and prepped this with my parents. I think we can do a huge service to our kids by opening up these discussions about certain life distinctions to really prep them to be able to handle all circumstances in life.
And what I was thinking is when we're young, especially when we're really young and we experience small losses like our goldfish dying or a hamster or bunnies, there's a perfect opportunity opportunity there to start the discussion and let your kids experience a little bit of grief so that they can move forward in their life, especially in the future when something more traumatic does happen. However, I think what parents do is they will come up with a story so they don't have to deal. So because they don't want their kid to experience any pain or sadness, so they say, we had to send your dog off to a dog farm, and he's so happy there, and he's playing with other dogs. Parents make up reasons to protect their children, and they're not realizing that later on that maybe awkwardness that you would have had to experience when they were younger is actually going to help them when they're older.
Yeah, it also opens up the possibility for young people to realize that pain that you feel when someone passes, or you experience a loss or going through grief, that pain is healing, and that pain reminds me that I'm human. That pain reminds me that I care, that I'm compassionate. That pain reminds me that I love that person so much that it hurts. And it starts to open up a whole new belief system around pain, loss, and grief. And so I don't have to be afraid of it no more. I don't have to stuff it. I don't have to ignore it. I don't have to pretend that it's not happening and then give myself permission to not feel it anymore. That's how we become numb. That's how we're numbing our vulnerability. We're numbing our compassion. We're numbing the love that we have, and we're desensitizing ourselves. And then we wonder why our kids are going through life, in search of something external to fulfill themselves, this empty void that they have inside. That's why our kids are reaching for alcohol or weed or drugs to feel something, because they've desensitized themselves, they've numbed themselves out, and they've been avoiding their feelings and feeling those the pain of loss, whether it's from a death or from a marriage or a divorce. They're numbing themselves. And so this is a great way to sit down and teach our kids that, hey, this could be coming down the pipeline in your lifetime, and this is how it feels, and start a whole new dialogue so that your kids learn how to embrace death and embrace loss, rather than reject it and resist it and be so emotionally stuffed up that they can't feel their feelings anymore.
Yeah, and I think last week too we talked a little bit about grief, and you were even saying that we could go on and on about that whole process. And I think for a parent, it's really important to understand grief and those stages and how that works, so that they can guide their kids through that. And a lot of times too, when kids are experiencing loss, in the family or friends or something, the parents are also experiencing that same loss, and they might not really be paying attention to the fact that they're not the only one experiencing it. So, unfortunately, if you're a parent and you lose your parent, your kid has just lost a grandparent as well. So it's also a process that you guys are going to have to take together. And I think maybe some parents, it's easy to kind of disconnect because you're going through your own process too. So it's important to be honest and walk that path together.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the kids get forgotten. They get left behind because, here I am in my 30s, losing my mom or my dad for the very first time, and I'm stuck, and I'm shell shocked, and I'm devastated and heartbroken. So I'm kind of walking around in this fog, trying to figure out how to make sense of what just happened. And often I think the kids get forgotten, that they're going through a loss themselves. But what an inspiration you would be if you just decided that, hey, you know what, maybe we should bring someone in to teach us what this experience is about and help guide us through that. And we actually have a grief expert in town in Santa Clarita. Her name is Sharon Brubaker, and she's an extraordinary coach that teaches grief and loss, and has been down that road many times and has helped thousands of families deal with it. But what an awakening you can have to really reach out and ask for somebody or a group of people to come out and support you and your family to help teach those distinctions to your kids if you haven't learned that yourself, or stuck or struggling through it.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that is really amazing about Sharon and her process is that, like you said, she's been through it, she's experienced it. And I think most people, especially by the time you get to your adult life, have experienced some type of grief. And what's really special about Sharon is that she has experienced a traumatic form of grief and, a traumatic death. And I think those are the ones that change us forever, the ones that are so hard, so challenging to move on from. And it's really nice to be able to sometimes just, fall into Sharon's arms and let her walk you through that process, because the traumatic ones are the ones that we get stuck in. And it's we're just really lucky to have Sharon.
Absolutely. And what better way to have somebody pull you out that had to figure out how to get themselves out on their own, and maybe had somebody coach and mentor them through the process, or even went on a journey of being so passionate that you didn't find what you were looking for out there in a certain way that you needed it, and then you went out, discovered it, learned it, and now you're that gift for other people. The next distinction I want to talk about is determination. This distinction, I know for me, I didn't really learn this distinction until I was a young man in a leadership program where we talked about these distinctions and really sat down and got insight from other people and had other leaders talk about what determination meant to them, and really just sat down and had a dialogue and opened my mind to learn deeper about what that distinction is. For me, determination is a certain will that you have inside of you. Like I kind of think of it as a light switch that you switch on, that you just have committed yourself above and beyond to make sure that no matter what, you're going to keep your promise, or that your commitment's going to turn out, or the result that you've focused on or have set out on that journey is going to be completed. Determination is like this burning desire to make what is so happen and create that result. And it's like this deep burning desire to have something be true based on what it is that you want.
Yeah, and I feel like we were kind of talking a little bit about this, like along the lines at dinner the other night. We were having like a whole family discussion about how putting your kids in sports or after school activities, or, getting them involved in stuff would really help, when you get older, to just have that drive, have that commitment, determination, everything. And me and my sister were saying, oh, I wish that we had something that we could commit to, or, something that would give us that drive, that determination. And you and Mom were saying, we tried to put you in everything. We put you in dance, we put you in sports, we put you anything, you guys asked, we put you in, but you guys just didn't want to do it anymore. We weren't determined, I guess you can say, to keep going forward with those projects. But it was like a part of us now is saying, I wish you would have made me do those things so that I could be better at this, and I can go out and be determined at work, or have a better commitment or more of a drive. And I think those are the places where kids get those, things from. And, I just wanted to point that out and kind of ask you as a parent, how does that feel, knowing that your kids wanted you to push them? Because a lot of parents, they want, their kids to be happy. They want them to be their friend. They don't want to make them do anything they don't want to. And then all these years later, you're like, oh, wow, here I was thinking I was helping you.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot. And I call it a dance. The dance is you're dancing on both sides of the line from, really, I'm going to call it super encouraging. So when I talk about pushing someone, it's super encouraging them. It's standing a line saying, I don't care, you committed to play soccer and you're going to practice, and I don't care, get in the car, right? So it's that tough love, like you're going because I don't want you to be a quitter. I don't want you to learn how to be a quitter, and you're going anyways. And we did that. We pushed you guys to a certain point. But I was pushed to a point when I was growing up where it created some resentment, and I didn't want to have pushed you so far that there was some resentment in there. So that's why I talk about there's a dance in there where you can push someone and super encourage them and take a stand for them. However, you don't ever want to drag somebody. It's like that old axiom, you could pull a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? And I didn't want to have that kind of experience on you where you look back and you had now insecurities because your dad made you do things that you didn't want to do. So it's a fine line between saying, no, you made this commitment, and I'm going to now take a stand for you that you followed through on it. So it was a little bit of a dance, and I acknowledged that night that, looking back in hindsight, because your brother was so determined in something that he loved in a certain sport that it just drove him internally. And as now looking back as a younger man and a father, there were certain things that you guys didn't fall into that you just got really hungry and excited about. And so we kind of it was kind of, you know, we kind of were feeling around to see if you would find something. We wanted to be more of encouraging you and empowering you. And one of the drawbacks is that if it doesn't happen and you guys don't light a fire inside of you, then one of the drawbacks is having you guys as young adults going, I wish you would have pushed me a little harder.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
here's the thing that is really interesting that I've noticed, and I'm not saying that it's true. So before I go and offend all of the generations, I just want to give that a little disclaimer. I've noticed that a lot of the baby boomers, they were more of the pushy, you're gonna do this because I said so, type of parents that it made Generation X a little bit resentful, and they're like, I'm never going to do that to my
That's right.
kids. So they babied us so much, us millennials, they babied us to the point where now we are, some of us, not all of us, some of us are a little bit lazy, some of us don't have drive or determination. And I feel like it's interesting because a lot of your clients, or a lot of the people that come into the training room, the parents, the thing that they always say to me or ask me, or I hear them ask you, is my son doesn't want to do anything. My daughter, she sits in her room all day. My son plays video games. He doesn't want to get a job. He doesn't want to play sports, all the teenager stuff. But never in his younger years or her younger years were they pushed, or super encouraged, to commit to something, or to stay dedicated to something that would instill that drive and that determination later on. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You're either way, it might not work out, but at least in those developing years, you know that you tried, so I do acknowledge that we were pushed, in our commitment to at least finish. We were pushed to finish the season. But after that, it was, okay, what do you want to do next, if not this? And so, we had, and I feel like a lot of parents go through that, where their kids try soccer, then volleyball, then baseball, and, it just doesn't really work out for them. They don't, like you said, they don't have that, that niche, or they don't figure it out. And sometimes maybe it never happens, but at least you guys tried.
And there was other things too that I made sure that I wasn't an enabler. For example, when there was time to, we got your first car, and it was time to check the oil. I purposely didn't go out and do your fix your oil, or clean your oil, or check your oil on purpose. And it was because I didn't want to baby you to the point, or enable you to the point where it was like, well, dad's always going to do it for me. And so I know that was one of your pet peeves growing up, but now you're this confident, independent person that has this determination, like, well, I'll do it, move out of the way. And so now I have to fight with you to try to help you and do some of those things. So it was kind of like I was always looking for an opportunity to be able to teach you how to be determined and how to take care of yourself. And I was mindful and aware of not robbing you from any kind of struggle. And that's one of the reasons why your mom and I never gave you a lot of things or bought you a lot of things, even though we could have. We purposely didn't do that because we didn't want to have these enabled kids and kids that were brats and needy and wanting and never really learning how to go after and chase for yourself and have the determination to go create your own results. So it was a fine line, but what really was valuable was being aware of not wanting to create those kinds of kids that were going to still be at home, playing video games, ordering pizza on our credit card, and still not having a job. So it was a little bit of a dance, and so that we had to kind of pick and choose some of those things.
Yeah, and I think when I look back at it and I realize all of the, for me, there were challenges or struggles to overcome on my own. I do acknowledge and I do see, and I am grateful for not, being enabled. However, I can look back even further when you guys were really young and you guys weren't really 100% committed to, this journey of consciousness and parenting and everything, where we were enabled and where we were babied, kind of like how I was saying earlier, you guys were so against everything that your parents did that you guys wanted to create, give more opportunities to your kids, and instead of giving opportunities, you gave them handouts, and you just do it. And so I can see the difference between when I was younger and babied, when I cried I didn't want to go to softball practice and I didn't have to go. So, there's, like you said, it's a dance between the two. And, I'm only hoping that at least parents can acknowledge, I've heard parents sometimes say, and this is a thing that, breaks my heart a little bit, is when their teenager, they can't get their teenager to do anything. He just wants to sit in his room all day and play video games. And it breaks my heart when they say, it's too late. There's nothing I can do. He's already a teenager, but to me, I'm like, oh my God, he's 15. How many more years does he have on this earth? And you think it's too late. So I just, like I said, I wanted to point out that it's not too late. It's not too late to try to instill that determination with your kids. It's not,
it's
it's
never
not impossible.
Too late. It's never too late.
Yeah. And I, like I said, I hear that. I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I hear that all the time. It's really especially moms, they want so badly for their kid to have that drive, determination, and make a life for themselves and everything, that they kind of sit there with their hands in the air, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know.
A lot of times in the moments when you were younger, when you were 5 or 6 and you were crying and saying, I don't want to do this. And, those are the moments where I really had to be really conscious and really present and really aware and ask myself, okay, what do I do here? What's the learning lesson? And I always remember reverting back to, is this about me? And do I want to make her feel better? And is that about me and my parenting? And deciding that I want to be liked by you and approved by you and be your friend? Or is my job to teach you a certain lesson? And so it really gave me an opportunity to look and really make sense of what my role was. And I always had to revert back to, and I kept reverting back to, my job is to teach you certain distinctions in your life, whether it was to not quit or if it was, you got to do this anyways. And so you were literally my best teacher of myself. And you continue to be that. Every time there's a challenge between you and I, or you're struggling with something, I always have to look at myself and say, okay, what does she need from me right now? Does she need a friend? Does she need me to let her not go to school right now because maybe underneath that there's something else that she's trying to tell me that she doesn't know how to tell me? Or do I need to take a stand for her right now and make her go because she's just allowing her feelings and her emotions to run her rather than her deciding that her commitment gets to happen anyways? So it's really a game of really being aware, super aware, and trying to figure out what's going on underneath. And so you have always challenged me, as your brothers and sister has, about figuring out what I need to be for you such that I am creating confident, competent human beings in the world so that you can go out in the world and make me proud and make sure that our family leaves a legacy of good-hearted, kind people in service into the world and making a difference.
Yeah, I have a little bit more to say on that topic, but I'll get to it after the break. Stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
The city of Santa Clarita has so much going on this year. Be on the lookout for amazing events happening throughout the year, including the Cowboy Festival, concerts in the park, Thursdays at Newhall, and the Santa Clarita Marathon. There are also a number of fun activities and things to do year-round, including outdoor recreation, hiking and bike trails, adult classes, art exhibits, youth sports programs, and more. You can even sign up to be a volunteer. Learn more at santa-clarita.com.
Who says nothing good happens after midnight? Denny's is best known for their breakfast served round the clock, like the Grand Slam. But you can enjoy breakfast, lunch, or dinner in a casual atmosphere 24/7. At Denny's, the lunch and dinner menu has a variety of appetizers, craveable burgers, salads, and entrees, along with the best desserts in town. Wherever you live in Santa Clarita, there's a Denny's close by. If you're pulling an all-nighter or don't feel like cooking, get into Denny's today. Good stuff is happening at Denny's.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Santa Clarita's hometown station. Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here in your hometown station, KHTS. I'm your host, Jasmine Urbina, here with my dad and co-host Alex Urbina. And today we're talking about, we're on our Parenting 101 series. But before we went on the break, we were talking about determination. And I feel like that topic really got away from us a little bit because one thing I really wanted to point out and bring up was that instilling determination in your kids, I personally think the most, I guess, maybe easiest, and I put that in quotations if you're listening on the radio. It's very, I think it would be easier to do it when they're younger, like instill that in their younger years, than trying to do it when they're older. But that's only because I've tried in my own journey to be more determined and have more drive for things, and, you know, all the other things that come with that commitment and so on. But it's been a challenge, and it's one of the things that I wish I could hit that easy button and be like, oh, I wish my parents taught this to me when I was younger. Done. Because I look at
but I wish I would have too. I wish now looking back in my journey of awakening and consciousness, had I have been a little bit more aware and more wise, I would have been working with you guys on determination since the day you were born. You know, and like when you're a little girl tying your shoe for the very first time, I wouldn't have tied your shoe. I would have said, let me show you how to tie your shoe. And I would have sat there and let you tie it and gave you 5 or 10 minutes to try to figure out to do it yourself. And I would have been inviting you more and more every time it was time to tie your shoe. I would have gave myself a little more time to let you tie it on your own so that you can develop that own determination to finally to do it on your own.
What's weird is that I think naturally we are just really determined beings, and something happens along the lines where
I believe that
we're
too.
like, you know, you guys as our parents or whatever baby us so much that we're just like, why do it when
hey, we got to
someone's
get to
gonna do
church.
it?
Come on, I'm just going to tie it for you because I'm running late.
Yeah, because how many times have you tried to tie a little kid's shoe and they said, no, I want to do it? I'm sure a lot of times.
Right, and if I'm late, I'm not going to let you tie it because I need to get to where I'm going to get to. And so the lesson doesn't get taught because something else is more important.
Yeah, and I think those little things that parents do because they're like, I'm your parent. What am I not going to tie your shoe? That's not what we're saying. We're saying let them have the experience of tying their shoe, and when they can't do it and they get frustrated, you take the time to teach them, you know, in a calm manner, you know. But all of that is so challenging, is so hard to do as a parent when you have other kids running around or you are late to church, you know. So it's interesting that I feel like ourselves, you know, well, I'm not a parent, but the parents and even myself as, you know, an aunt or a sister, whoever, when I'm trying to help somebody, I say, I'll just do it. And I've seen myself do it many times where I get frustrated and I just do it for someone instead of letting them have that experience. And we do that every day, not just as parents.
Yeah, and I think the key distinction here is to be able to help your kids create their own determination or tap back into it or not taint it, because like you said, I think we're all born with determination in us, but to a certain degree it slowly gets snuffed out, like that fire gets put out because as parents we have other agendas and we need to keep moving forward and we're task oriented, so we don't really give you the opportunity to keep practicing that determination so that you develop it in a more powerful way. But I think one of the other ways to really help your kids develop determination is by encouraging them, inviting them, setting up scenarios for them to learn it on their own, to rediscover it on their own, to practice one more time in an environment that you've created for them or a scenario you've created for them. And what I visualize is like when your kids are little, instead of going and getting their bottle, you know, and feeding them, if they can walk, you're like, go to the diaper bag and go get your bottle so we can go to bed. or go get your shoes or go get your clothes out so that we can, it's like encouraging them and inviting them to start doing for themselves a little bit earlier on, rather than making the assumption that they can't do it, or it's easier for me to do it for you, or we don't have enough time, so let me just get it done. And so it really takes a lot of mindfulness as a parent and awareness and consciousness to be able to stop yourself from getting in and tainting that organic discovery of determination for yourself.
So for the parents who, like I was saying before we went on the break, that say, oh, it's too late. Like, I've already enabled my son so much that it's really hard or challenging to teach them otherwise. So I don't know, I'm trying to think of a popular example. Like, I've made lunch every single day for my son since he was in kindergarten. Now he's 16 and I want him to make his own lunch. What am I supposed to do? Like little things like that, where parents, they want their kids to take the steps and start doing things on their own, but the parents have been enabling them for so long. Those are the ones that I feel like are the ones that are like, oh, it's too late. Now I just have to do it forever, which isn't true.
Right.
So what's the step for those parents that feel like it's too late?
Well, I get this a lot with my coaching clients in my profession, and most of the parents that I'm coaching that actually have this kind of awakening and this awareness, what I do is try to encourage them to be honest with their kids and own it. Like, start to take responsibility for it, and then out yourself to your kid. So it would sound like something like, hey, Mom, where's my lunch? Hey, Timmy, let me have a conversation with you real quick. I just realized that I have been making your lunch since you were 2 years old, and you're 17 years old now. And I realized that I really enabled you from learning how to take care of yourself and make your own food and prep yourself for your job. And I don't want to keep doing that anymore. I love you so much that I want to start learning how to teach you or create an environment where you start learning how to do that for yourself. Or, for example, you're going to be going to college soon. I'm not going to keep washing your clothes. You're going to have to learn how to do this on your own. But I've acknowledged that I've been doing it for so long, so why would you want to learn for yourself? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to teach you how to do it for yourself. And I need you to be patient with me, because I've been doing it for so long. I've just been getting in there and just handling it, that I'm noticing now that that's not really going to serve you moving forward on into your own life as you become your own man or your own woman. So I think by telling on yourself and owning it, taking responsibility for it, and then letting them know that you want to course correct that, and then explain the value for them. What's the value for them learning how to do it for themselves, and then getting their buy-in, and then now you have a new platform to move on from.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of parents do a certain version of that, but their version looks like a more fed up version of, I've been doing your laundry for 17 years, you need to start doing it on your own.
Yeah,
and then they storm out.
Right.
Maybe like you've tried as a parent, and I believe it. I believe that parents, they try every day. However, it's that way. It's just not working, at this time. So try a new way. And I really like the idea of outing yourself and saying, you know what, I've been doing this for so long, and I apologize that I didn't teach you this sooner. And imagine,
I realize
like,
that it's not serving you. It's not serving you. And I just got that. I just have this new awareness, and now I want to help support you. And so I'm noticing some of the things that I've been enabling you. So I want to course correct that. And one of the best examples or stories I like to tell is, imagine you go on vacation out into the wilderness and you find this beautiful little lion cub. And you're like, oh, I'm going to bring this cub home. You bring the cub home and you start feeding it and nurturing it and treating it like it's your dog, right? You're feeding it, giving it water and giving it love. And all of a sudden, the little cub lion starts to grow up and getting bigger and now needing more attention and it's eating more, and you're spending more money buying it food. And you realize, like, I can't take care of this lion anymore. It's almost a full-grown lion. And so you take that lion back out to the jungle, and you let it loose into the jungle, like our kids out into the real world. How successful do you think that lion's going to be to fend for itself out in the real world?
Not very.
Why? Tell me why.
Because it doesn't know how to hunt on its own. It doesn't know how to survive on its own.
Yeah, because I've enabled it for so long, I took that natural instincts to go out and hunt and to persevere and to overcome and to push through and break through and have that determination to find my next meal. I robbed that lion from that opportunity to to practice and remind itself that that's who it is. It's a king of the jungle. So now I have this lion out in the world that's like a coward, afraid of all the sounds, and it doesn't know how to survive in that world. And so you got to look at your kids like that. Your job as a parent is to prep them. It's to keep fanning that flame of determination and create environments for it to go out there and push through and persevere and break through. It's not to go in there and save them. And I think as parents, the natural thing is we don't want our kids to suffer or experience any kind of pain because we love them so much that we go in there and we rescue them. We're not realizing that suffering and pain is what causes determination to develop and nurture. It causes us to figure out how to dig down deep and break through and push through to the other side.
Yeah, and like I said, you probably, parents, never thought you would hear your kids say, I wish you would have pushed me more. But as someone that, I had the push, I had the encouragement, it's just not what, where I wanted to be.
Absolutely.
So of course we're going to blame you guys and say, I want you to push me more. So, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of kids that look back and say, I wish you didn't push me so hard. But that's just like, it's a double-edged sword. That's just how it's going to end up being. And, I really genuinely am grateful for the push that you guys did give us, and the many pushes that you probably had to, step back from and say, okay, I'm not going to do it this time, or I'm not going to step in. So, thank you to you and all the parents that are listening. I think that we're all just trying to do like our best
Absolutely.
job.
Yeah.
And as much as I wish I would have had that push, I am the one now that's in charge of my own life. I'm the one now that is, has to say, okay, if I want to be determined, I have to make it. So I don't want anybody to think that, I'm blaming all the parent, because we kind of get that, vibe a little bit, is that we're putting all the blame onto the parents. But really, I think kids, what we want is our parents to take responsibility a little bit. And sometimes just acknowledging that is like a big weight off of our shoulders, and I just wanted to let parents know what a gift it would be to your kids if you could take responsibility for something or acknowledge something just once, and then know that as much as your kid's not going to communicate it, it really is taking a lot off of their shoulders.
That's a great point. The next distinction is doing versus being. I didn't learn this distinction until I was in my early 20s, but when I was taught it, it really changed my life, and it transformed and transcended the way that I actually show up in the world. Doing is acts of talking, action. They're action words. They're things that you do, right? And then there's things that you don't realize that you're being as a human being. So before I can talk about the doing, I got to talk first about the being and break down the distinctions of all the different ways of being. So being are loving. You can't do loving. You can do acts that express love, but loving is an energy. It's a beingness. So being loving, caring, compassionate, patience, authenticity, forgiveness. These are all energies that we have within us that we manifest as a way of being. It's like a certain light that we project. We're projecting it from the essence of our spirit, right? That's all beingness. You can't do being. You just be it. Doing is the acts that come out of the beingness. Those are the action words, like buying yourself something or helping out and fixing something. It's the acts. And so when we don't understand the distinction between doing versus being, we just clump it all together, and we're just doing us. So what I've realized in my life is that when we're born human beings, not necessarily needing to do anything. But what ends up happening is we grow up in a world where we're taught that we have to do more, better, and different. So we go on this hunt to figure out how to do more, better, and different. And we turn from human beings into human doings. And we don't realize the power we have as human beings because we forgot that we have that ability.
Yeah, and I think the distinction between the two is complicated. and I know it's not supposed to be. It's like a very like generic kind of idea, but the thing that's complicated about it is when you're actually living your life is not just doing. I mean, I'll speak from the I perspective because I do it all the time. I am just doing things without thinking. I'm just doing them because you're supposed to. Wake up and I brush my teeth because I'm supposed to, and then I go about my day. But if I was doing things from, like you said, the being part first, I would start to notice a difference. And even knowing these two distinctions, I still jump straight to the doing instead of being in, the being. And one of the things that I just want to emphasize is that just knowing this is not enough. Even trying every day sometimes to me feels like it's not enough because I'm still stuck with the same results and the same, and sometimes I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I am, I confuse myself or I trick myself into believing that I'm being more than I actually am. And then I'll get in a fight with myself or with someone and say, I was just trying to help you. I was just trying, but really there was too much doing going on, to really be being. So sometimes it really is just telling on myself for me to get back into that space and say, okay, you can start all over. 'Cause, I don't know if anyone does this, but I do it a lot. I beat myself up for everything. So if I'm find myself falling back into the doing, which is every day, every single day, I'm not gonna lie, I do it every day. But it's getting back up and saying, okay, I'm gonna be different now. Now I'm gonna be loving, and I'm gonna go out there even though I just got in a big fight, and I'm just gonna be loving, and I'm gonna apologize and get back to my life. But we can't be that way. We just do the doing. We stay angry, and then sometimes we can go out and apologize, but it's not from the being, it's from the doing. I'm going to apologize because I have to, or she's not going to apologize, so I'll just do it. And I think that's kind of the for me, the main difference between the being and the doing is where the intention comes from behind, because people can tell, have you ever said I'm sorry and then someone not believe you? And that's why. It's because you're just doing it. You're not being sorry. You're just saying
you're
it.
doing sorry, which is the saying it. And if you've ever noticed that there's certain parents that get certain results and there's other parents that don't get those certain results. Some parents do parenting. They're not being parents. There's other parents that are both being and doing parents. And so those parents that are being and doing, and they're being and doing in alignment, they're getting more effective results in their life. The parents that are unconscious, just doing it from automatic pilot, the being is missing. And so their kids are not experiencing the true love and patience and vulnerability and empowerment and inspiration that these kids are getting from their parents, because they're actually have been practicing how to be those things rather than just the doingness. So it's the magical ingredients as human beings that we can add when we're aware of it, and when we learn it, and we embark on a journey of learning how to master more of the beingness within us. And so that's the distinction of being and doing. And if you don't learn it, you can't teach your kids that. So if your kids grow up and are numb and disconnected and don't know how to feel their feelings, then they've turned into human doings as well, just like you are, perhaps, if you haven't learned how to practice mastering the different ways of being within yourself.
Yeah, it's really, just real quick before we go on the break, what's interesting is going back to the parents who say, my kid doesn't have the determination, the desire, the drive, whatever. They're just kind of just going about life. And like you said, it's kind of like, they're watching you. If you're a doer, they're going to be a doer. And sometimes being a doer doesn't mean you're doing stuff. You could be a doer and be successful, be rich, and, have everything. Being a doer, but you can also be a doer and actually do the minimum. So there's a difference. Some people, because I've heard before someone say, what's so bad about doing? I think a parent said this one time where they were saying, in a training room, they were saying, well, my kid, what's so bad about doing? Why is that have a negative connotation? It's not that doing has a negative connotation. It's that not all doing is the successful kind of doing. Sometimes you could just be doing the bare minimum and just be making it through life.
And if you're just doing and creating the results, and you're wondering why it feels empty or there's something missing, the missing is the beingness, because doing is just doing without the feel good and the fulfillment and the joy and the happiness and the passion. Those are all distinctions of being. And before we go on a break, I just want to point out that determination is a way of being.
What? No, I'm just kidding.
It's not a doing. You can't teach determination. You have to learn how to access determination as a way of being from within you.
It's like the determination causes the action, so it causes the
That's
doing.
right. The determination is the energy that's being generated from the light, the spirit within you. It's like a spark that gets ignited, and then the fan gets flamed, and before you know it, there's this inferno that's burning inside of you. That's the determination, the passion, the hunger, all that's being born out of a way of being. It's not a doingness.
I love that connection. We have to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more of the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
Fruit arranged like flowers? What a delicious idea! Edible Arrangements specializes in creating a variety of fresh fruit arrangements overflowing with fresh, hand-designed fruit and filled with strawberries, pineapple, grapes, cantaloupe, honeydew, and seasonal favorites. Made to order in a size you select and ready to eat and enjoy. You can even add chocolate to any arrangement. Edible Arrangements is always fresh, always appropriate, and always appreciated. Order yours today, 253-0052 or ediblearrangements.com. Edible Arrangements is on Soledad near Bouquet Canyon.
Marston's Restaurant has been a Pasadena landmark, voted the best breakfast in California by the Food Network magazine. Discover Marston's Santa Clarita location, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Marston's also has a fantastic catering menu that adds a delicious twist to any event, and they cater picnic dinners for that memorable romantic date. Experience Marston's on Newhall Ranch Road and McBean, or log on to marstonsrestaurant.com.
KHTS.
Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220, your hometown station.
And we can just say that it's
Welcome back. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Before we went on the break, we were talking about the distinction between being and doing. But I really wanted to point out again, like you said, the topic we were talking about before was determination. And you were kind of making the connection that, the beingness comes your determination comes from the beingness, and that drives the doing, and that drives the success. And what really resonates with me is that the beingness is basically, it's almost like what I've been chasing ever since let me start all over. Ever since I found out about the distinction between being and doing, and I feel like my sister kind of does this a lot too, where we are chasing the being so much that we're not realizing, I guess, I don't want to say how easy it is, but we're not realizing that it's right there, and we're chasing it so much so that we can get to the doing, like, in the most effective way. Like I said, that we're not realizing that sometimes being really is just stopping and just being that thing. Like, one of my common examples is loving. Like, being loving is not a challenging task. What is challenging is not being all the other things that are stopping me from being loving. So being upset, being angry, being stubborn, all of those things are all in the way, that it's like you have to fight through all of those things just to get to the good one. And those are the things that I'm not willing to let go of. And those are the things that I'm letting get in the way of me being loving or being happy, or all of the bad things that I've been doing for so long.
That you've been being
for so long. Yeah, all the things that I've been being for so long, that now they have become doing. Like, I'm just doing them. I'm just, making those my life instead of the being part.
I'm glad that you broke down that distinction of loving is is kind of who you are as a spirit. You're just all loving. However, if you've been practicing other ways of being that get in the way of being just all loving, then you have to be focused and super and hyper aware of all those other ways of being, like stubborn, unforgiving, angry, resentful. You have to really be mindful of shutting all those different ways of being down so that loving comes shining back through again.
It's like you really have to be willing to let go of all of those. I'm talking to myself, so no one get offended. I have to be willing to let go of all of those terrible things that have made me so things that make people not want to be around me. And even myself, there's times where I'm like, why am I like this? I don't even want to be around me. Like, I can understand why other people don't, but I'm just not, like many people, am not willing to give up those things, because when we talk about this all the time, we get payoffs, we get something out of those things, the payoffs are just so satisfying, or whatever you want to call it. And we haven't gotten rid of those things to see how satisfying loving can be. So it's kind of like, we're just like, we don't want that change. Or I don't want that change, because I don't know what loving is going to bring me. Like, it doesn't have a guarantee, but I do know what being stubborn, being unhappy, being angry, I know what those things bring me.
Yeah, they bring you loneliness.
And attention. No, I'm just kidding.
Tension,
all those
pity,
things,
feeling sorry for you. You get all, those are all the goodies you get. That's the payoffs.
Those things are satisfying, but they're only satisfying for so long. And being loving, okay, that's satisfying. What do I get back in return? Love. It's almost like you have to fight with yourself. Okay, what's more important? What's worth it?
And when you say you got to fight with yourself, let me just be clear. You're fighting, when you're saying I have to fight with myself, you're fighting between your ego and your spirit.
But I love my ego and I love my spirit.
I know you do. I know you love the ego. However, the ego in relationships is destroying you in your relationships. Your ego is a beautiful thing, and it's designed to be a beautiful thing to protect you, not in relationships. In relationships, it destroys you because it's trying to protect you from being vulnerable. It's trying to protect you from being loved and loving and appreciated and all those beautiful experiences that come with that way of being. So I get it, and you're on this journey of being aware of what's going on, and you're the one that's ultimately deciding when it's time for you to finally surrender all of these ego games. The self-protection, the pushing people away, the getting angry and upset. I know it's a racket. I know it's your game. That's why I don't take it personal. It's just part of your journey. I'm just waiting for the day that you finally decide that those aren't serving you no more, and that you finally trust the other side called love and surrender, and let go of all that fear that you got going on.
Yeah, and I love that you pointed out that the ego, I feel like in this whole journey and even on this show, we really pushed it, almost like give the ego like a bad name, like a bad rap. Like, it really doesn't deserve that. The ego
it's not
is
a bad
great
rap. It's a beautiful gift for us. However, when that gift or that tool is not used and we bring it along into our relationships, it's going to do its job. It's going to protect us. That's when you got to go, no. I'm going to be right now, spend some time with my brother or my mom or my wife or my kids. Go take a seat in the corner. I'll come get you when I'm ready to go to my car and drive home.
Yeah, and I think like you said, we're using that tool like at the wrong time. And I love you so much, ego, so don't think that that's not what this is. But I love my spirit too. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But we're here next Friday and every Friday after that from 12 to 1 p.m. right here on your hometown station, KHTS.